The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "I say to you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much gain. But love your enemies. Do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back." The Gospel of the Lord. When Jesus called the first apostles fishermen by trade, he made them a promise. If they followed him, he would transform them, starting with how they fish. Jesus didn't promise to make them smarter, healthier, or wealthier. He didn't say that they would be more popular or better looking. He did not even suggest that they would be holier. Instead, Jesus told his first friends and followers that if they followed him, they would become fishers of men. He would teach them to apply the same skills, patience, and determination they used as professional fishermen to bring people into a relationship with him. Jesus invites us to do the same, to engage people with the truth of the gospel. Following Jesus long enough and closely enough will bring us into a relationship with him that naturally overflows into a desire to share him with others. In theology, that's called evangelization. Yet when we hear that word, we often think of a certain denomination or a specific kind of Christian, rather than recognizing that it is a basic call for all Christians. Evangelization is not a niche practice. Rather, it is a fundamental exercise of faith. It calls us out into the mission field, right in our own backyards. Opportunities surround us every day, every single day, to bring people to Christ. Unfortunately, because we don't have a history of doing this, we tend to see sharing our faith as unnecessary or impolite, maybe even inappropriate. Over the course of this series, we've been working to dispel that mindset by underscoring two important truths. The first truth, the most loving thing we can do for others, is share Christ with them. The second truth, sharing our faith is essential for growing deeper in our own faith. And our approach is as simple as can be. Invest and invite. As you go throughout your week, keep an eye out for friends and family workers, classmates and coworkers who do not have a relationship with Christ. They're not hard to find. Invest in them. Invest in them through prayer, for sure, perhaps even some form of fasting. Invest in them through kindness and encouragement. Invest in them the same way that you would invest in any meaningful relationship. And then, when the time is right, invite them to church. And here's the thing. You're not doing this all alone and on your own. We want to be fishing partners with you. That's why we invest so much time and effort into everything that we do here. Because if you go out of your way to invite someone to church and they actually show up, well, then we promise you that our team and volunteer ministers will be working hard to make sure your guest has a great experience. Throughout these weeks, we've been asking you to commit to impacting just one person. And when the opportunity presents itself, and it will, invite them to join us this upcoming Lent, just a few short weeks away. Lent is always an amazing time to experience the faith again, for anyone coming to church for the first time in a long time or for the first time ever. Last week, we looked at why we invite people into a relationship with Christ. Because he is the only person who ever lived who has ever risen from the dead. And the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is available to anyone who has a relationship with him. We invite people into a relationship with Christ because he has the power of life. He has the power to bring dead things back to life. Dead dreams, dead relationships, dead ends. Christ brings life. Today, as we wrap up our series, we're going to look at 3 personal benefits of joining Jesus on a fishing expedition for others. Why investing in evangelization is personally worthwhile. To help us out, we're going to look at a portion of Luke's gospel that is called the Sermon on the Plain, as opposed to the Sermon on the Mount, which we find in Matthew's gospel. This is the Sermon on the Plain. And it's a challenging message about loving our enemies and doing good to those who hate us. In fact, he urges us to pray for our enemies. Why in the world would we do that? He says, love your enemies, do good and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. So why do this? Well, because there's a reward in it for us. We get something out of it, a reward. And the reward is that we become more and more like our Father in heaven. You know, God loves people that are far away from him and can do nothing for him. God did not wait for us to clean up our act before he sent his Son. Because if he did wait, well, he'd still be waiting. When we invest and invite others, we are reminded of what God has already done for us. Investing and inviting reminds us of God's mercy and of his compassion. When we take time to invest and invite, it changes us. Our hearts soften with the compassion and the mercy of God. Jesus goes on to say, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. When we care enough about the people around us to subtly, or not so subtly, take time to share Christ with them, to help them step into a relationship with the Lord, or at least take a step closer in that relationship, it is an antidote to the critical, cynical, judgmental attitude our human nature is prone to. And that alone, friends, is valuable, super valuable, because a well-lived life has no room for judgment of others. We still do it. Sometimes even we catch ourselves judging. We say, oh, I shouldn't judge somebody. I shouldn't judge them. I don't know what's going on in their lives. We do it, but we shouldn't, right? A well-lived life does not look at other people in a judgmental sort of a way, nor do we look at eyes ready to condemn. We should be different from that. We shouldn't do it. There's more. He says, "Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back." So here, Jesus paints a picture that his first century listeners would have understood. You see, in those days, when you went to the market to purchase dry goods, things like grains or beans, you would place your purchases in the pockets of your robe. That's what you did, and that would be close to your lap, right? They didn't have grocery bags back then. You couldn't pay 35 cents to get a bag. That's just the way it was. So what he's suggesting here is a scenario in which you're actually able to purchase the maximum amount you possibly can take on, right? Overflowing. And that's a pretty good situation to be in. Give, and it will be given to you in return. Giving to others opens us up to receive more of God's blessings. And this is true in every aspect of life, right? Friendships, finances, kindness, you name it. Anything and everything. And it is especially true when it comes to faith. Until I am willing to give it away to others, my faith will remain stifled and stunted. But when I do give it away, well, that's where it grows. That's where it begins to take off. Now, there are basically three modes or approaches to life. There's survival mode, success mode, and significance mode. And in the little time that we have left this morning, I want to just break these down for you a little bit and reflect on them. So first, survival mode. This is where I live my life to get through my life. I just want to pay the bills, put food on the table, and a roof over my head, and have a little bit of fun at the end of the day. Survival is important, for sure, and everything in us aspires to it. But even then, it's not as good as success. In success mode, I want more. Right? I want to be a high achiever or a high flyer in whatever field I choose or area of life I deem important. And success can be about many things. It can be about a career or a business endeavor, making a name for myself, climbing the ladder, playing at the top of my game. It can be about the respect and appreciation of the world, or the honor and recognition among my colleagues and peers. It might be about money or awards or accolades. It's the freedom to do whatever I want to do, an early and active retirement. Success is certainly better than surviving, but there is still a higher mode of living, and that is significance. Now, this means living for something bigger than yourself, having or living a life of significance. This is where I look to have an impact for grace and goodness on the people I know and in the world around us. We exist to impact and influence the lives of others. Survival and success are good. Considering the alternatives, they're actually more than good. They're aspirational values. But they do not have the depth and breadth. They do not have the lasting value, the eternal value of significance. Just think about it this way. Let's suppose that tomorrow morning, the CEO of your company or the head of your organization calls you in, and he or she says this to you: the most important thing about our organization is the maintenance of the status quo. Or they say to you, the reason you all work here is to make me look good. Your job is all about advancing my career. Or they say to you, The mission and purpose of our organization, the values that guide all our efforts, are about the impact you're having on the community and the difference that you're making in people's lives. Which remark would you rather hear? Right? The last one, right? Of course. Right? Of course. We have an instinct for survival. We might have the drive and the ambition for success. But do we have the motivation and the inspiration for significance? We should. We absolutely should. We should, because we flourish and grow when we're connected to something of significance beyond ourselves. Right? Something that transcends our needs and our wants and our desires and our demands. As followers of Christ, we are connected to the most significant mission of all. We hold the greatest message ever given, that God so loved the world that he sent his Son not to condemn the world, but that the world might be saved through him. We've not been given this message because we're special or because we deserve it. Not at all. We have not been given this message to keep it locked away in a holy huddle of church people. We have it and we hold it to share it. We have it to share it. It is meant to be shared. Sharing it brings profound significance and meaning and value to the lives of others. But it also brings profound significance, meaning, and value to our lives too. And I've seen this. I've seen it in my own life. And I've seen it in so many of you. And I'm seeing it woven into the very fabric of this parish, a church community that is not just about itself. That's very important. A church community should not just be about the people that are already sitting in the pews. We exist for the people that are not sitting in the pews. And that's a huge mind shift. And I can tell you, it is very touching to me when you might bring somebody that you've invited to church. It could be a relative or a friend, a neighbor, someone down the street, someone at your 12-step program, and you bring them to church, and they come, and you introduce them to me at the doors. That moves me, because it's incredibly important. Right? You're doing it. You're investing in someone, and you're inviting them to come. And they come. They might not come back. That's okay. They come. And seeds get planted. And it really moves me when that happens. Jesus' resurrection introduces us to a whole new level of living with possibilities and potentials that change everything. That's why we invite others to know him, because we want them to know that. It's not about religion. It's not about religion at all. Jesus isn't just some kind of expert on religion. He's the expert on life and every single aspect of it. When we're talking about fishing, we're not talking about introducing people to a religion. We're talking about introducing people into a relationship with the one person who's ever lived, who knows everything about life, and who wants to walk with us and journey with us and strengthen us. And that person, Jesus Christ, has the power over death. He has the power to make all things new. That's why followers fish.